Sophia and James got married 3 years ago. Genuine, completely real, nothing fake about it. But when their green card interview came, the officer started treating them like suspects. Separate rooms, rapid fire questions about their apartment, their friends, what they had for dinner last week. Then a letter arrived. Marriage fraud investigation. Under the Trump administration, USCIS has ramped up marriage green card scrutiny across the board, and legitimate couples are getting caught in it. I'm Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, an Austin immigration attorney who has represented over 10,000 immigrant families. This video is going to tell you exactly what USCIS is looking for, how to prepare, and what to do if your case gets flagged. What is driving the increased scrutiny? Let's start with the landscape. Under any administration, USCIS has the authority to investigate whether a marriage is genuine before granting a green card. Marriage fraud, meaning entering into a marriage for the purpose of obtaining immigration benefits rather than a genuine commitment, is a federal offense. The law has always allowed immigration officers to probe deeply. What has changed under Trump administration is the tone, the resources, and the threshold for suspicion. Fraud detection units have been expanded, interview protocols have been made more adversarial, and officers who might have accepted a simple explanation in a prior cycle are now more likely to escalate the cases for further review. The administration has made it clear that it views immigration benefit fraud as a priority enforcement area. The result is that couples who have done nothing wrong are now navigating a process that was already stressful and finding it significantly more intense. Sophia and James are not alone. Couples across the country are reporting longer interviews, more invasive questions, requests for documentation they were never asked to produce before, and in some cases, finding themselves under a formal fraud investigation without ever having committed fraud. Understanding that environment is the starting point for knowing how to protect yourself. What USCIS is looking for. When USCIS evaluates whether a marriage is genuine, they are looking at two fundamental questions. Did you enter the marriage for genuine reasons, and do you actually live as a married couple? On the first question, they look at the history of the relationship. How did you meet? How long did you know each other before marrying? Did your families know about the relationship? Were there cultural, language, or age gaps that seem unusual in the context of your backgrounds? These are not disqualifying factors on their own, but they are things an officer may probe if the initial file raises any questions. On the second question, they want documentary evidence that you share a life. Joint finances, shared residence, shared social networks, shared daily routines. This is the area where many genuine couples fall short, not because they are not really married, but because they did not document their life together in ways that satisfy a bureaucratic standard. Red flags that can trigger additional scrutiny include a short courtship before marriage, a significant age gap, different countries of origin with no apparent connection, limited shared documentation, prior visa overstays by the foreign-born spouse, or any discrepancy in how the two spouses describe the relationship. None of these things means a couple is fraudulent, but any combination of them can shift an interview from routine to adversarial or push a case toward fraud investigation. How interviews have changed. Before we talk about how to prepare, let us talk about how the interview itself has changed because that is important context. Historically, most marriage green card interviews were relatively straightforward for couples with complete documentation and consistent applications. Officers would ask questions, review documents, and if everything checked out, the green card would be approved, sometimes at the interview itself. Under the current administration, several things have shifted. Interviews are taking longer. More couples are being called in for what is called a second interview or a Stokes interview, where officers interview spouses separately at length and then compare their answers for inconsistencies. Officers are asking more detailed, personal questions about the couple's daily lives, household routines, physical intimacy, family relationships, and social circles. Requests for more evidence after an interview rather than approvals at the interview have increased. The Stokes interview specifically is the one that catches people off guard. It is designed to surface inconsistencies between what the two spouses say when they cannot hear each other's answers. Even couples in completely genuine marriages sometimes give slightly different answers about minor details, and that can create problems if they do not understand why this happens and how to address it. Sophia and James were separated at their interview. James was asked what color their bathroom towels are. Sophia was asked the same question. They gave different answers, which was entirely innocent, but it was flagged. That is what led to the investigation letter. What happens if USCIS makes a fraud finding? Let's be direct about the stakes because they are serious. If USCIS determines that a marriage was entered into fraudulently for immigration purposes, the consequences are severe and long-lasting. The green card application is denied. The foreign-born spouse becomes permanently barred from receiving immigration benefits based on spousal relationship in the future. The bar is not temporary. It follows the person indefinitely. On top of that, if there's a finding of fraud, a USCIS can refer the case for criminal prosecution. Marriage fraud is a federal crime. Penalties can include fines and prison time, though criminal prosecution is not automatic and generally requires more evidence than an administrative fraud finding. If the green card denial is accompanied by a referral to immigration court, the foreign-born spouse may face removal proceedings as well. For the U.S. citizen petitioner, making a false statement or participating knowingly in a fraudulent marriage petition is also a federal crime. Even if the citizen did not intend fraud, their involvement can create legal exposure. This is why a fraud investigation, even when the underlying case is completely legitimate, requires immediate legal counsel. You do not handle a USCIS fraud finding without an attorney. How to prepare a legitimate case under increased scrutiny. Here's the practical guidance every couple needs to hear. Start your documentation from day one of your marriage, not when you file. The most compelling evidence is contemporaneous, meaning it was created over time as a natural reflection of your life together. Bank statements that go back 2 or 3 years, lease agreements, utility bills, insurance policies, photos with dates, travel records showing you went places together, text message histories, social media posts, letters or statements from family members, friends, coworkers who knew you as a couple. The standard you're trying to meet is this. If you showed this documentation to someone who had never met you, would they conclude that you are obviously a real couple who shares a life? If the answer is yes, you are in good shape. If the answer is, these documents could describe 2 people who are roommates, you need more. Before your interview, sit down together, review your application from beginning to end. Make sure you both know exactly what was submitted and agree on the factual narrative it represents. This is not getting your story straight in the deceptive sense. This is making sure that 2 people who live together and know each other's lives are prepared to articulate those lives clearly and consistently under pressure. Know the answers to the personal details of your life together. Your home address, your landlord's name if you rent, the layout of your home, your daily schedules, where you each work, what you do on weekends, where you celebrate holidays, what each person's family members are like. They're not trick questions. They're an ordinary details of a shared life. Being able to answer them fluently is what good preparation looks like. Bring originals of every document in your file. If you have additional evidence that was not included in the original application, bring it to the interview in an organized folder. If you were asked to come in for a Stokes interview specifically, do not go without an attorney. You have the right to have an attorney present at your interview, and in a Stokes interview, that is not optional, it's essential. What legitimate couples need to remember. Sophia and James did not commit fraud. Their marriage is real. The investigation into their case is the result of an institutional environment that treats all couples with heightened suspicion and minor inconsistency in interview answers that have nothing to do with the reality of their relationship. What they did right, they retained an attorney immediately after receiving the investigation notice. What they're doing now, compiling an extensive record of their shared life over 3 years, including everything they should have brought to the interview in the first place, and preparing for a follow-up interview with counsel. For couples facing heightened scrutiny, the message is this. A more aggressive USCIS does not mean you have lost. It means you need to approach your case more seriously with better documentation and better preparation than you might have needed to a few years ago. Real marriages can be proven. Real marriages do get approved, but you have to build the case. One final point that I think is easy to lose sight of in all the fear around this. The law still requires USCIS to approve a genuine marriage. The standard is not convince us beyond any possible doubt. It is show us meaningful, consistent evidence of a real relationship. Strong documentation and honest, well-prepared interviews meet that standard. Thousands of couples do it every year. You can too, but it takes preparation, and in the current environment, it takes legal guidance. Want the full step-by-step on how to petition for your spouse and what documents you actually need? That video is right here. I'm Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, and at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law, we help couples navigate exactly this kind of scrutiny. If USCIS is investigating your marriage, please talk to an immigration attorney right away. Subscribe so you never miss what's coming next.